I'm I'm officially 6 minutes late. That's 5 plus 1. But I have a cup of coffee. I was in there talking with my wife about family and I guess just being human, having to deal with all the things we deal with as humans. And my wife's mom has been needing, help. She fell and hurt herself. And we were talking about how to help those we love and how some people are stubborn and don't want any help. And I myself, I guess I'm probably going to be one of those old people who doesn't want anybody to help me. Um, so I understand that mentality that, there's some sort of a stubbornness within us that tells us that we don't want other people's help. And not everyone. There are plenty of people out there who do nothing but whine and cry about wanting everyone's help. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Not the victim folks, but there's a lot of us out there who really buckle down and deal with their own shit, and don't expect others to bail us out or help us. Having help, accepting help from other people is actually a very divine thing. I mean, it's when somebody says, it's especially asking for help. So, for example, like I said, my wife's mom is not doing well and we need to pick up a lift chair. And my wife was talking about renting a U-Haul, so I texted my friend today and asked him if he'd help me out to with his pickup to go pick up a lift chair and deliver it to her house. And he's like, just let me know what's up, what you need. I mean, that's the kind of friend he is. I didn't want to ask because I knew he would say yes. It's kind of a strange thing. I have friends, just a few friends who would be there for me if I needed it. And but the thing is, you've got to ask. And for most of us, it's very difficult to ask other people for help. And maybe not for everyone. Some people have overcome their, uh, I guess, fear of asking people for help. But I think a lot of us just want to prove that we can do things ourselves without other people, without needing other people's input or help, because I guess some of the time we just want to prove that we can do it ourselves. But some of the time also, we don't want to owe somebody something. This is especially true when people want to bail you out, from a financial problem, something like that. And no, thank you. I'd rather deal with this myself. And there's a term that is thrown around loosely, introvert and extrovert. Um, and I thought about how I tend to be very introverted at certain times. I come out here into the garage and I do my own little thing, make my videos. Sometimes I just sit here and think. And but at the same time, if I didn't have interaction with people around me, then I would go crazy because I love people. So I think most people are introvert slash extrovert depending on the circumstance. And you know, figuring out who we are is kind of figuring out who other people are. To know what human beings are really, excuse me, what human beings are here to do, if anything. But anyway, we'll get to that, won't we? We always do. I want to say hello to Vector. Good to see you. Hello to Ronald. Good to see you. Hello to Hot Retarded Chicks, who says perverted. Perverted like your screen name. You gotta change that. Come on, it's been 10 years. Hot Retarded Chicks. I'm gonna go off screen here and sip a soda because otherwise the algorithm will pick up the fact that I have a soda. It's an apocalypse soda. Good times. Isn't that weird that we're always being watched by the algorithm? that every time I do a live cast, it's being picked up live by AI of one form or another, some sort of a program that's able to decipher and distinguish whether something is offensive or hateful or threatening, and take all that data and send it somewhere else, right? I need to stand up for a minute. I started this live cast a little late, but I haven't decided which direction I want to take it. The reason I do it on Thursday night now, at least for the last few weeks, is that I work Monday through Thursday. So Thursday night is kind of my let loose time. And the reason I do that is because, well, I don't have to work tomorrow. Pretty simple. But also, every weekend, I feel inspired again. Like the weekdays, the week is over, the work week, and there's so much I could get done. So much potential for the weekend. So many things that I could accomplish if I really put my mind to it. Hey, maybe this weekend I could even change the oil in the car. Yeah, I probably will. Now that I said that, I have to force myself to. Both of my cars need an oil change, but I put things off. And really that was the topic I wanted to tackle tonight the most was the fact that we procrastinate. Now, I'm speaking from my own experience. I know not everyone out there is like that. And in fact, my wife and I were just discussing the fact that there are some people. She was saying she envies her sister because, or her, yeah, her sister, because she can, she's kind of a go getter and she's always wanting to get things done and accomplish things. And she's the one who will come home and deal with phone calls and interacting with people. She's a principal, I think, at a school. So she's got that mentality. And I was saying how we aren't all that way. Some of us interact differently. Some of us can't, uh, you know, we don't see things the same way and we don't tackle things exactly the same. And it led me to think about artists and those who create, let's say musicians, for example. You might be a musician and also be that type A personality that's a go getter, but you're not necessarily going to attend to all of your life issues if you're a full time musician. Because, and this is the starving artist syndrome, it's not a bad thing. It's the fact that when you're an artist, you tend to focus on the art and not a lot on life issues or things that other people would say, hey, this is important. And maybe even paying your bills, right? But at the same time, a lot of the people who are that way, are responsible in that way, they want art on their walls and they want to listen to music on their way to work. And so it takes several different types of people to get these things done. And I think that's what I'm trying to get across here. What I'm trying to understand and embrace is who are we, and who we are depends on our circumstance, our situation. But it also depends on who we choose to be, what kind of a person. Sometimes, no matter who we choose to be, what job we choose, profession, career, hobby, we have to sacrifice something in order to attain something else. In other words, even if you are a Renaissance man, completely worldly, and you're fascinated with every topic, you're not going to necessarily um, let's say specialization is for insects was a term I read a long time ago. It was some philosopher that said that specialization is for insects, that a man should be worldly. And they called them men who know a lot of topics, Renaissance men. And in modern days, it's called a jack of all trades. And yes, you can say a Jill of all trades. It's not necessarily a man, it's just mankind. The more you know about every topic, generally, the better off you are. To be able to analyze everything around you and to be able to draw conclusions based on that, not just on guesswork or what you're told, but actually by analysis or your own personal research. For me, I've been the kind of guy who is fascinated with everything. It started when I was younger and I read books about chemistry and archaeology, and I wanted to know more. And then I got into conspiracies and everything else, but eventually moved into the quote spirituality and self-help realm, and multi-dimensional, kind of books about illusions and things like that, and hallucinations. Oliver Sacks, who was a phenomenal author, he passed away a few years back, but he had a book called Hallucinations, which was absolutely enthralling and really brought me into his studies as a doctor on people who had hallucinations, whether they were induced or otherwise, and how the brain operates. And it got me thinking about how, different tribes, different groups, there's a great example is that certain people can't see the color blue. They did a study a long time ago and about some tribe, and I don't recall the details, so don't blame me if I'm mistaken slightly on the details. But they said that our ancestors in certain areas could not see, in most places at one time or another, could not see the color blue. And it's not that they couldn't see it; it was that the color blue had not been defined yet. It was all a shade of green to them. And it wasn't until blue was declared a separate color that it became visible the way we see it. It, it seems ridiculous, but you can look it up. Um, our ancestors could not see colors the way we see them, not because they weren't visible, but because our brains perceive what we see. And if we start to associate a slight different color of green, which we would call blue, looking at a sky, for example, or the water, and can differentiate that somehow, then our brain learns to better separate and manage the way that it views water and sky and compare that to other things we see. Not a lot of things in nature were blue besides water in the sky. Therefore, it was just like another green. And the way that we perceive things as humans is totally based on our own experiences. If you see everything as a threat because you're anxious all the time, then that's going to be completely different from a person who sees the world as an oyster and can say, "Wow, this is amazing. I can go out and do anything I want at any time." Some people might walk out and walk around their neighborhood and think, God, it's awesome to live in this day and age with all this technology and availability. I can go out to eat. I can go to the weed store on the corner. And other people who go out their door and they're just totally fearful that somebody's going to attack them. Um, it really comes down to perspective and your experiences in life, whether it's colors, smells, sounds, the way we perceive things. Some people hear fireworks and they think it's awesome. Some people hear fireworks and it reminds them of being in Vietnam, PTSD. And, you know, we associate sounds, smells, textures, colors, everything with things experiences we've had in the past. And that in itself is pretty awesome because it means that we can choose to program our minds to think more positively and associate things with better ideas. To give you an example, music is probably the best gauge of how do we connect with a past event in our lives. You listen to a song and you think, fuck, I was listening to ST the other day, which is, I can't say the word because it's S-sidal tendencies. They are a, punk band from the 80s, 90s, and Mike Muir was the lead singer. And I was thinking, wow, this brings me back to a certain time in my life. But I honestly, I realize that certain people who listen to it have never had any connection with it whatsoever. And it's kind of the same way I feel when I turn on a Jerry Garcia band album or Grateful Dead bootleg. And here comes Jerry's guitar just bleeding through beautifully crisp. To me, I associate so many good times with that guitar, with that musician. And to me, it's just like heaven. I love it. And to some people, it's like, oh, you know, I hate the Grateful Dead. It's not that I blame them. It's not about the band themselves. It's about the connection you have to that band, right? Just like it's the connection that you have to anything else in life. And I want to tell you it's serotonin related. One of the topics that I've been fascinated with was dopamine and serotonin. And serotonin is released during times of course, pleasure, but it's more complicated than that. But when you imprint on your mind, you know how when a chicken's born, it can imprint on whatever's around them. Hopefully, it's the mother hen, but it can sometimes be a human. If that's the first thing the chick sees, it will a duckling or a gosling or a chicken will associate itself and imprint the face of a human being, and that will be their mom basically. And this is something I think we should give a lot more credence to. The fact that most people are the same way. They're going to imprint their bullshit or imprint themselves on other people's bullshit, and therefore associate themselves with how their parents acted or their classmates, their peers, whoever it might be. Yeah, it's weird. You know, when people talk about being independent, being an individual, being your own person, it's kind of cheesy, at best, because we're often a combination of many different people. It's been 18 minutes, so I'm going to continue and flip through and say hello to anyone else. Al Ohm, good to see you, my friend. Daniel Riley, it's good to see you. Chat CBD, says Ronald. You want me to talk about CBD? I could if you want. Just let me know. AI ain't no human, says hot retarded chicks. Actually, you're right, and that's the beauty. I'm gonna vote for. I told my brother this. I was like, I'm voting for AI as soon as it runs for president. It's got to be better than what we have. Alone. It knows my dissent. Hey, yo, it's good to see you, my friend. Says I'm going to get a job soon and also keep my crypto investments and hopefully get into real estate. I'm 31. Well, I hope that works for you. I really do. I would say I'm not a big crypto fan. I think crypto is garbage, but I do believe that real estate and buying land, if you want to buy anything, go out and buy 10 acres in the middle of the desert. It's nothing now, but, maybe not the desert. My wife and I have been looking for land, but we want land with trees and maybe at least a stream or some water or well access. But yeah, real estate and land are great investments. They really are. Hello, the daily dose of mental health. It's good to see you. He says, hey, everyone. Panzer says, I'm a loser. I'm a looser. You're looser? Like, I'm loose, man. You're not a loser. But if you're a loser, then you can choose not to be. Hello, Adam. It's good to see you, my friend. Adam S. Who else we got here? Skrillis Crow. I'm trying to read with my plus 1 point glasses. Hey, Carpo, finally caught alive. Hey, I'm glad. I try to make them as often as I can, but not everyone can catch them. Like I said, I think I'm going to set one up for Sunday night, but um, I don't know if I'll ever get. Yo says, I don't know if I'll ever get married or date again or have kids. I just want to support myself and become financially comfortable, do whatever I want. That's totally respectable, man, and I get that. Totally get that. Humble. 9300. Yes, you're live again on a Thursday night. Yes, I'm going to try to do Thursdays. Um, Carpo tunnel syndrome. Foreman's basement. Hey, Foreman. It's good to see you, my friend. Wait, is it Frank? No. Foreman's basement is not Frank. Yeah, it is Frank, right? I think Foreman's basement is Frank, but I've never seen two. I try to remember my subscribers' names. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's difficult. We're all the villain in somebody's story. Amen to that. Um, Scottish accent. Good evening. Hey, I'm Scottish. I'm an Orr. My last name is Orr. Orr. Let's see. Al. Yo. Okay, we got. What's this? Sesh. If the mellow is taken out of mellow yellow, left you with 10 coin. Left with you be 10 coin. What? You're donating $10 to me? Thanks, bro. No, I'm kidding. What? Oh, that's from Sesh. I'm not familiar. I remember that name, but it's good to see you. Ryan L. It's good to see you, my friend. Here we go. A question. I love questions. It's from Tombstone Vulture Command. It says your thoughts on solar power for individuals for us to gain a self-sufficient source as opposed to the reliance on energy companies. My opinion on solar energy is very simple. Many of you know that I own a school bus, a short bus, 21 footer. It's out in my driveway, and I have two solar panels on there. It's only 400 watts, and they power you know, um, two batteries that do not power any heavy stuff. They just power all my lights and my party stuff when I'm out, at festivals and concerts and shit. And they power my subwoofer all night without having to charge. The solar panels in the morning, as long as I have light, they charge. I think solar is great as long as you have sun. But I also think that the problem is storage. It's always storage. Storage. Same thing with the whole, Tesla and the cars and the fact that they want to make California gas free. It's like, you won't do it. They won't do it. I guarantee you. Mark my words. I'll still be here on YouTube in 10 years if it's still here. And they will not get rid of gas powered cars because in order for everyone to drive an electric car in California, they would have to increase the grid by 5 or 6 times. It's crazy how much more power they would need. And that power has to come from somewhere. So it's either burning coal or oil or nuclear. And yeah, you can't escape power. It has to be charged somewhere. And that amount of power it takes to charge all these cars is just going to become more and more and more. But solar, the only issue we have with solar as panels get better is the storage. And that's a huge problem. It really is. I don't know what the solution is, but y'all can tell me. Hello, Anthony Davis. It's good to see you, my friend. Yes, Tombstone. Altogether like pun. Education is the greatest investment, says Alom. It is, but what is education? That is the question. I don't know what an education is, honestly. At this point, the shit my kids are learning in school doesn't really benefit them that much, so I'm curious. Tombstone says electricity storage solution, hybrid batteries, a mixture of deep cycle and some replaceable lithium ion cells, since lithium storage is short lived. I think it's a great idea. I think that the thing is, we're going to discover something new, a new type of battery, a new type of power. Maybe not fusion, or it's not going to be some amazing new discovery like people think. It'll probably be something old that's just kind of renewed. Like, oh, if we mix these two compounds, wow, it's a better battery. But also, solar panels become more efficient. All of these things become more efficient. But I'm starting to kind of change my tune on climate change, global warming, the whole thing. After looking at the data, I find myself trapped in a conundrum as a liberal environmentalist hippie type person who gives a shit about the world I live in. I don't believe what I've been told because the data doesn't add up. Yes, we are adding more CO2 to the environment, and yes, burning oil leaves toxic residue, causes glaciers to melt faster. But then you find out that one volcanic eruption can just totally negate all of that, for better or worse. And it doesn't mean it's right, but it means that maybe the human impact isn't exactly what we've been told it would be. And so I started looking more into the what ifs and the maybes, and I don't really care that much about solar or wind power anymore. I am a full blown proponent of nuclear power done correctly, with whether it be molten salt reactors, anything that can't melt down. I mean, you think about it, the technology that melted down the problems we had were built 50, 60, 80 years ago. We now have technology that can allow us to build reactors that do not melt down. We have much better security measures. And just like we've learned to capture a lot of our carbon through, and, toxins through things like catalytic converters and carbon capture devices, I think we can do the exact same thing with nuclear power and make it completely legit. Now, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't have solar or wind or even oil, in some places. It just means that we should not have that as our sole answer. Because green energy, the ultimate green energy, is nuclear power. And I get so much flack for that. I went to jail for a while back in the day for getting busted with some mushrooms. And I thought about, you know, I found this book in the dorm area where I was in. It was called Nuclear Power and Me or some shit. And it was like probably some propaganda book. But I don't think so. It was an older one, but it wasn't funded by any particular organization. It was just explaining how fission and fusion happened, and started explaining the amount of the comparison of deaths from nuclear facilities compared to the deaths from oil, or you know even solar and wind create nuclear waste. Put it this way: when you're mining the rare earth elements for windmills, they actually come out in China, and there are these huge toxic pits that have polluted. It sucks. The locals suffer from all kinds of diseases because of our windmills, right? And you think it's a little easier to control nuclear waste because you can put it at least in one spot. And I'm not going to say that's better, but it's not that I'm just some dumbass who didn't think this through. All the data I've looked at shows that nuclear power is the safest option we have right now to clean up our atmosphere and to not kill ourselves. Yeah. Ramble on nuclear power there. They need to. Okay, I'm going back to the comments here. I'm just going to flip through them real quick. Who we got? Oh, Sandra. Sandra says, has anyone looked into the health risks of sitting on a big battery in a car? Amen to that, sister. Actually, yeah. When you get in an accident, it's going to blow up and catch on fire, and you're going to be fucked. I've seen some of the Teslas burning, and I just don't buy it. It's not a solution to me. And when they start putting Teslas in a tunnel going underground, oof, totally different story altogether. Hello, Amy. Good to see you, my friend. Gas pipelines are a problem as well. Al says true innovation is found in improving what we have. You're correct. That's why nuclear power is the answer right there, my friend. Tombstone says cold fusion reactors look promising. Implosion tech future will be what we cannot even imagine. I think that's the key, my friend. You nailed it right there. The future will be what we cannot even imagine. Cheers to that. The future is so bright, I've got to wear shades. And I say that because I honestly believe it. I think that something is going to really revolutionize, energy production. But I also have part of me that says that doesn't matter. Put it this way, even if we had free, I'm going to stand up for a minute, but even if we had free energy, even if we had everything at our fingertips that we could possibly want, would we really be happy and stop fighting on Twitter? Yep. I went out to grab a soda. But let me tell you, it's not about Twitter. That's not the problem. Don't get me wrong. The problem is people. People are assholes. And I mean that with all respect because I'm one of them and I'm an asshole too. When I go out of frame, you should know that I'm just take this fucking hair tie out. I mean, I got long hair. I should let it down. Where are we here? Cold fusion. We were talking about. Yes, the future will be what we cannot imagine. Agreed. Who we got here? Ryan. Ryan Clark. Good to see you, my friend. Al Ohm says, I wish that science had not shown how ignorant they are, thus shunning our potential. Well, I. Science is not a group of people. You know this. I'm teasing you here, but um, when you say that which science had not shown how ignorant they are, who is science? Isn't science everyone? Like when I go out and do my own experiment, when I used to grow pot and I try different combinations of seeds and pollen and stuff, and that's like biology, right? Biological science, I guess. But I was trying to teach myself kind of how things work, and I realized how different forms of science are, and how many different branches there really are, and how science itself is not really a thing. It's a process, and as long as we remember it that way. And I only say that because I've heard people say, well, science was ruined by them or they, but it's not them or they. Like, you just look at what went on during the pandemic and how much bullshit we were fed by, quote, science, and how the new data just came out to show that masking made absolutely no difference. Like, there was a college, one of the most respected, studies came out, like 650 million Americans, or I think, and from all different walks of life, and whether they wore a mask or didn't, and what type they wore. And it found out that not only did masks not work, but they had less than a 0.8% efficacy rate, even at the best masks, like N95s, right? 0.8, that's less than 1%. So for the last few years, science has told us that, mask up. And I stopped masking up pretty damn quick. But I definitely was wearing them for the first year. And, well, the first 6 months maybe. Yeah. And then I wore them where I had to for, the next 6 months. But it got ridiculous, and people started believing what they were told and saying follow the science. And so, sorry, that triggered me to think about what the science really is. What do you all think about COVID? Because you can leave a comment on what you think about it. If I talk about it, I get in trouble. I actually get censored when I talk about these things. I can't talk about what happened over the last year and a half or so. 3 years now. The last year and a half have been the times when it's over and people just, I still see people in their cars or riding bicycles or walking to work in a mask on the road or in the middle of nowhere. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And it's not normal, so don't say it's people's choices. It is weird to wear a mask today out in the middle of nowhere by yourself. It is weird. I can't help it. Ryan says you're touching your face with a mask. Exactly. Well, even Fauci himself said that. He's like, they're pretty much useless, but people just don't care. They want to stand by their virtue signaling about I wear a mask. It's just crazy. NPCs. Totally, bro. Ryan's like, oh man, what do I think of COVID? Social isolation works for me, says Anthony. Yeah, well, not for me, man. I don't put up with that kind of shit. I don't believe in. I mean, I can isolate myself if I want to, but to shut down people's ability to connect and have meetings, to go to church, to go see your grandma die. I think this is one that's overlooked when people say, "Oh, I was stopped. I wasn't able to do this or that." It's like, but people literally could not go to their own grandparents or their parents or their kids' funerals, like, because of COVID. Funerals for people who had died. Like, you spent your whole life with somebody, and then within 6 months they say, no, you can't go see them. You can't go to their funeral. You can't go to the hospital. You can't be with your parents when they die. What the fuck happened? You know? The more that I learn about what really went on, the more pissed off it makes me. And the more frustrated I get by the fact that so many people still to this day buy into the bullshit and will not admit that we're lied to. Pfizer never did the studies on whether or not the vax stopped, spread, let alone whether it stopped you from actually getting it. And told us it was 100% effective, 95% effective, whatever it might be. Then it's like 25% effective. And then they're like, get your boosters, but by the way, we don't know if this actually works or not. I mean, it is such a joke at this point. I know very intelligent people that I still talk with who say, we were doing the best we could. We were just trying to protect people. And they believe that. They really believe that. I don't believe that at all. And then there are the people who say, well, I knew what was going on from the very beginning. And those people, I also say bullshit. Because nobody knew what was really going on at the very beginning. If you truly believe in science and data, then what you do is you do the best you can to take the best precautions you can. Then you continue to do continuing research and studies on what's going on, which most people didn't do because they continue to just believe what they're told. And then when you discover that you're being lied to, you can change your behavior, which is what I did when I stopped masking. The minute it wasn't required, I stopped wearing them. Even before that, I just realized, okay, here's the data. It doesn't support what I've been told. And who am I to know any better? I'm just a human being, right? Learning as we go. And I feel like I've been fucked around too much by politicians in the past, so naturally I'm very suspicious of what they tell me. Go figure that. I'm flipping through the comments, really. And Clark says that he was in that situation. His grandmother was dying. It's a horrible if you couldn't visit your grandmother dying. It's fucked up. Sandra worked in retail and worked for the worst years. Yeah, I I can't imagine what it was like being behind the barriers with masked up, for 8 hours a day. Yeah, Alum is talking about social isolation. Um, People don't like being alone, and fortunately, I have a family of four. So when it hit, we went out and went on a road trip in our school bus, and went up to Mount St. Helens, and then we went up during the summer for a couple weeks to the middle of the woods, and just enjoyed ourselves. It's like but I have people that I live with. That's different, and some people don't. Change subject, please, he says. Hey, if you all want to change the subject, you're welcome to. But it's good to be boiling. It's good to be frustrated about the situation, because it's there's a lot of fucked up shit in the world. All right, script making says thoughts on the horrible earthquake in Turkey and Syria. They say similar thing is theoretically possible in some regions of California. Do you think the U.S. is unprepared for this kind of catastrophe? That's a great and detailed question, my friend. And I have a very detailed and scripted answer for you, or unscripted answer, rather. I live in the Pacific Northwest, just north of Portland in Vancouver, Washington, right off the Columbia River, which Portland has several fault lines of its own, one I believe under the Willamette River. But off the coast of Washington and Oregon, we have the Cascadia Fault. California, their quakes are pathetic compared to what we have up here. Now, and I know you might think, what? What are you talking about? Let me explain. In California, they have slip faults which basically grind back and forth. There's only a certain amount of pressure that can build up before it goes. And from what I understand, the ones in California can never get past like 8.9, 9 point, something like that. I don't remember the exact amount, but it's less than up north where we actually have a subduction zone. So the Juan de Fuca plate, it's called a Juan de Fuca plate, is passing underneath the Cascadia plate. And the and every time it builds up a certain amount of pressure, it'll start to bend the Cascadia plate. This is where the Cascade Mountains came from. And when that ruptures, it goes shoots up. It not only sends a fucking 9.5 something earthquake up to through the Northwest, but and devastates everything from Portland and Seattle, west to like I-5. But it also devastates the coastline by a monster tsunami. And they've been able to trace these back every 250 years or so for the last like thousands of years. And we're 300 and something years. We're overdue significantly. So in the Northwest, when the quake hits, they said it will fuck up everything basically, west of I-5. I live east of 205, which is another 8-10 miles. I live far enough away from the city to where if the shit hits the fan, I'm one exit away from the woods, if you will, and being able to escape away from that shit if it got bad. But you just have to live with it. Earth disasters, catastrophes, you never know when something's going to happen. So you just deal with it. Ryan says, I was almost not allowed to go to the beach with my family because I wasn't vaxxed. Yeah, well, by who? Oh, by your family, you mean? Well, that's fucked up, dude. I would be pissed if my family pulled that shit. Fortunately, I don't have to deal with that problem. I guess you could lie to them and say you are. What do you have to show your family your vax card? Ryan says, do you take vitamins, Carpo? If so, which ones? I do not take vitamins. I'm not a fan. The only vitamin I take is if I feel like I might get sick. I take vitamin B12 or a B6, or is it B12? No, it's B6, I think. No, sorry, vitamin D. I take vitamin D along with my mushroom blend. I make my own capsules out of reishi extract and cordyceps and um, chaga. and lion's mane, but I don't take them all the time. I think vitamins are kind of overrated as themselves. Because I believe in getting it from the food if I can, but I don't know. I don't feel like I need any vitamins, so it's all right. Ryan says our electric grid is not so safe. Yeah, I could go on and on and on about the potential for a Carrington event, which was 1859 when a major solar flare took out the entire grid, but all we had back then was just some. Uh, we didn't have any electric lines. We only had. Um, it fried a bunch of telegraph stations and caught some lines on fire, and then people were able to send signals without batteries because the ground current was so strong. And you could see the aurora borealis almost. Well, I guess it would just be the aurora because borealis refers to the north, but the aurora all the way down to like Florida and south of there. And when a major solar storm happens, it will take out the grid and people will be sent back to the Stone Age. So get a generator. That's all I can say. You are correct, Humble. Instead of taking vitamins, it's better to actually consume the food. Hmm. Where are we at? There we go. Who can't get it from the sun? The mushrooms are tops right now, the big craze. Like psychedelic mushrooms? Or do you mean? Yeah. Actually, all mushrooms right now. We've got medicinal mushrooms, we got psychedelic mushrooms. Um, there's a lot going on right now with mushrooms that a lot of people have been talking about for years, and folks just don't want to hear it. They don't want to. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Then YouTube will actually like care about my live cast. And there's 32 people here, 34 people, and there's only 7 thumbs up. Come on, you guys can do it. That's all I ask. I don't want your money. I just want your thumbs up. Then again, maybe most of you hate me. You never know when you're uploading videos. How many people are there just to troll you? I guess that's one of the interesting things about putting your face online. But I'm glad I do it. I enjoy it. It kind of puts me out there and makes me feel awkward because feeling awkward is good. Anyway, Anthony says the Texas power grid failed during the last Arctic blast. This year, no issues so far. The reason that the Texas power grid failed is because Texas refused to be part of the national grid. So if somebody loses power in the east or the west, we can actually reroute power and help each other. Texas didn't want to be part of that because they didn't want to pay into the federal fund. They didn't want to, pay for the extra safety. So Texas isolated itself and would not connect to the main grid. So Texas, if they'd made the right choice, then they wouldn't have had that freeze. All those people wouldn't have died, and all those people wouldn't have lost all that money and had their pipes burst. The amount of people who got fucked in Texas is completely understated. You don't realize how many people like were devastated by that storm last year. And the reason why it happened, the only reason it happened, is because Texas power companies refuse they basically want to charge their customers less, but at the same time they have like a lot of people had flexible way payments. So if the demand goes up, your price goes up. I'm sure you heard about the people who got charged like 10 grand for their power for like 2 days or something. And because they can do that because there's no protection. I want to say something about Texas here. Everyone talks about Texas like it's this haven, like it's self-sufficient, and Texas is about doing it yourself. It's a state about where things are bigger. It's bigger, but you're also living next to chemical factories on floodplains with no zoning laws and no protection. And when a hurricane comes and fucks up your house, tough shit. Who do they go to? The federal government for federal assistance to help them to bail out people because of their poor zoning practices. The Texas government is shit. They always have been. And I feel like people talk up Texas like it's this great place. And it can be. Yeah, there's a lot of freedoms there. I've never been to Texas. All I know is what I've studied about Texas, that the reason that so many people's houses got fucked up and flooded and they lost power for a week or two was because the energy companies were too cheap to want to tie into the grid and, I guess, play as team players. And but like I said, when they want the federal assistance, they're right there to grab it. And everything, nothing's as simple as it ever comes across, I guess. I'm not harping on Texans. I'm harping on Texas government and the idea that it's hard to have a society where people are taken care of and where we also don't have to bail everybody out for their stupidity. You know, I'm the guy who says, why rebuild New Orleans? Let it drown. And that sounds like a dick thing to say. People say, well, people grew up there. They have a history there. I'm like, that's cool, but the history's over. You know, it gets flooded so consistently in some areas. Maybe not New Orleans specifically as the whole city, but certain areas of it really should just be reserved to nature, turned back into what they were, swamplands. And humans have been trying to kind of impose our bullshit on nature for a long time. And then we say we need to protect each other, but it's not about that. It's about, like, when I see a guy who's sad because his house fell down, and then I see the video of his house on the beach, literally on stilts, like 100 feet from the beach. I'm like, you lived there. You chose to live there. You wanted that beautiful view. You wanted to see the sunset. And fuck your house. I don't want my tax dollars paying for that. And that's a dick thing to say, but it's true. Because I believe that I haven't been bailed out for any of my mistakes. You know what I mean? And I guess folks don't just realize how far these tax dollar issues go. How much we have to pay for other people's dumb shit. I mean, it doesn't even compete with the military. My God, I could go on for hours about that one. I gotta stand up again for a minute here. And have a drink of soda. I get frustrated sometimes, but I laugh at it. Nothing's really worth getting upset about unless it has something to do with your own personal life and your relationships with other people. And even then, the only reason to get upset is to make a point or to express how you feel. People get upset about the dumbest shit these days. But sometimes you need to. It's always strange how live casts are so different from making a video for me. I don't know how many of you peeps have ever made a video, but it's still weird after 12 years. It's an odd experience to like talk to a camera and see 30 people on there and say, "Oh, I'm talking to all these people." I'm so glad I don't have one of those channels with like a million fucking subscribers where like everybody's just flooding the comments, because I get to read every one of your comments. So, Mind Shifter, it's good to see you, my friend. Hello, Lord Nikon. Is it Nikon? We love you too, my friend. So I'm going to flip through the rest of these comments for anyone who's not aware of how I do this. I try to read all the comments and answer any questions, but it's hard. Whoops. Comments about Texas. Sandra says she lived through the hailstorm that destroyed Wiley, Texas. It's a beautiful town now. That's great. I think that sometimes towns can be better once they're totally devastated. We kind of need to start over as a species, um, all the time. Um, Hello, Satellite Man. It's good to see you. So I think I've caught up with the comments now. I've I sometimes find myself. Hmm, oh, Sandra says lived in southern Georgia when having a 500-year flood. Um, when they say 500-year flood, I think that's going to become a lot more common in coming years. I feel like we're going to be moving into kind of a new future here. Something we should have expected, of course, and most of us who were fascinated with, you know, studying the future, I guess, as much as you possibly can. You don't know what's going to happen, but if you look at history and you look at the data, you find that we're kind of moving into a dark age right now. And I don't like to say that because it makes me feel like I'm being negative. But the truth is, it's kind of like get your shit together time. I've always been somewhat of a prepper. I have a lot of, well, I'm not a stockpiler. I'm not the guy who has, I mean, I know people who think that stockpiling firearms is going to be the answer. The fact is, you can only shoot. You only have two arms, right? You know, get a couple firearms with the whatever particular caliber you like and be done with it. But really, preparing is more than just stockpiling food and weapons and you know, having a bunker. I always have this joke that all the people who have bunkers dug will be flooded out. All the people who have, you know, basically whatever you plan for the future, you're going to be wrong. It's just kind of fate. It's how it works. And so the best you can do is just have enough to protect your family. Have food, have shelter, have a bug out plan, have your basic, you know, protective measures. But things fall apart really quick, people. I mean, I don't think people realize how delicate and fragile uh, what we have really is. What you might, I was going to say a democracy is, but it's not really a democracy. It's kind of a meritocracy, plutocracy, you know, oligarchy, whatever you might call it. It's bullshit. It's what we have right now is a whole lot of people trying to make a whole lot of money off of the working class. And you're basically a number to a lot of folks. And it's very difficult for people to get what they're worth and to be properly respected in today's world, I guess. An oligarchy or an ogla. I won't get into that one. Um, if you look at what's going on in politics right now in the U.S., it seems like things are chaotic, especially to younger people who might think that it's any different than it's ever been. But it's really not. It's always been cutthroat from the very beginning. And we've had the U.S. is known for its, you know, coups, its lies, its three-letter organizations that do what they want to do and don't care about the people. And it leads you to wonder, like, how other humans can actually treat people the way they do. It's kind of sad. Flipping through comments again. Leon Leon says, in percentage, how much do you think humanity will still be around within 100 years? I'm guessing about half, maybe half, if we're lucky. Love from Brussels. Thank you. Skrillis Crow, $3. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. Many blessings to you, my friend. A war for the minds of people. Peace to you, Anthony. So, where was I? It's only been an hour. Shit, I could be here for 2 more hours. I'm not going to be, though, because I'm going to go watch a movie with the family, I think. And then I'm going to get up tomorrow morning, Saturday. I mean, my Saturday. Sorry, it's Friday tomorrow. But I have Fridays off. So to me, it's a Saturday. I have 2 Saturdays and a Sunday. Maybe a Saturday and 2 Sundays. I don't know how to view that. But anyway. So I'm going to. Oh, hey, Corey. It's good to see you, my friend. See, you know what? It's crazy to see that some of the people that comment are subscribers I've had for like several years. And damn, it feels good. It's like you all are family. You know, the people that join me on this journey. And I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring anyone or not answering specific comments. I read them all, but it's hard for me to associate each person with each comment. And it's something that you see my face, but I don't see yours. You know what I mean? I'm just standing up and stretching my legs and having a soda out of the algorithm because that's what I have to do. So I have to go to the bathroom. I have to actually I find myself having to go to the bathroom and do human stuff. So if you guys have any questions or discussions, any of the next comments, we will talk about whichever topics you want to talk about. You just got to decide what you want to talk about. Until then, I'll be right back. Because I don't want to go to the bathroom in here. That wouldn't be cool. be back. My dog wants to go for a walk. Hi, everybody. You're still here. Well, my dog was begging to go on a walk. So I told her I would take her on a walk, but before I do that, I have to finish this live cast, which is as I said, a weird thing. I won't go into the details of that, but I would like to, in the future, do a live cast with other people. I think it would be great. But I need topic and a specific, like, kind of, layout to do that. Maybe not. I don't know. Love you too, Corey. Good to see you. Hey, Positon. Good to see you, my friend. Leon says, do you still watch Joe Rogan? Why or why not? That's a great question, and I'll give you a perfect answer. I don't watch Joe Rogan at all, and I never have. I watch Joe Rogan's guests. Every single Joe Rogan show that I've ever watched has been about his guest. And I don't really care what Joe says. I remember him as a kid as being the guy who, think about it this way. I would think about it like, do you still go to parties at John's house? And you're like, well, I don't care about John. I just go to parties because everybody else is there. Like, that's a horrible example because you don't know John. Neither do I. I just made that up. I was trying to think of an example somebody might understand, but it's not Joe. Joe is the facilitator of information. He allows people to come on to his show and talk for 3 hours or 4 hours unbroken, uncensored, completely, exposed to the world. It's like when Joe Rogan had Sanjay Gupta on, who was like the CNN guy, who's like the quote doctor. He was on there talking about the efficacy of vaxes and everything else and masking. And Joe was just calling him out consistently, and the guy just couldn't handle himself because he was on, not just consistently, he couldn't be censored. He was like, he couldn't just edit out parts and be like, oh, can you remove this? Or I don't want to be seen saying this. It was like, you just talk for a few hours and it's all laid out, So with Joe Rogan, it's about his guests. And I will only watch Joe Rogan if I like the guest. I've never really listened to many of his martial arts ones. He has, like, half of them are like the MMA ones. Some of them are very intelligent and have great topics, but I, for the most part, dudes who punch each other in the head just don't impress me. And I'm not interested in what they have to say because nothing I've heard from them really resonates with me. Nor do I like his friends like Joey or any of these like really douchebaggy guys who just cuss all the time. But what I do like is biologists and microbiologists and scientists who, discuss topic, doctors, people who really want to get topics out. I enjoy listening to lectures from even guys who are talking about ancient technology or, there's a whole subgenre of that, but even some of them kind of disappoint me, like what's his name? He just had like a Netflix special and it was horrible. Like he was making all these claims that probably are bullshit. And God, what was it? Can't remember the guy's name. Somebody'll post it. But anyway, Sandra says you're taking 3 days off next week. That's great. 5 days total. Taking time off is good for the soul, my friends. StreamYard's cool. You can bring people from chat up on your screen. StreamYards. I've never heard of that. Positon says, Les Pauls and a telly? I'm actually making a Les Paul and a telly. Oh, are you talking about up here? Actually, that's funny you say that. Okay, so if you're talking about these guitars, this one is based on a Les Paul. This one is based on my own design, and in the middle, there it is. And then this one over here is based on a Stratocaster. I'll show you. This is a sneak preview. Nobody's seen these yet. I'm kidding. This one is based on a Les Paul design, but as you can see, you can't see it because the light's shining on here. But these are circuit boards inside. This is the hardware, but this is all circuit boards which come from this sandwiched version. I need to make sure these don't get lost because everything matters here. I try to keep track of everything. This is the back of it. It's got some blue tape on the spots to protect it, but this is my circuit board design. This is a through neck guitar. So this entire guitar is built out of one piece. There are no joints on it. And it's made out of a piece of pine. Then it has the circuit boards on the back. And then it has this part. I don't have the... But if you looked under black light, it says Carpo. And it has this like caduceus here. And then on the front, it's got a layer of resin. It hasn't been ground down yet, but it has a, I think it's a 256 gigabyte or a megabyte RAM card. And then a bunch of little circuits that were kind of ground into here and then glow-in-the-dark frets. And this was one of the first guitars I built. So I'm pretty stoked on it. Someday I'm going to do an entire video just based on the guitars that I built, and I'm going to start selling them. And I haven't got around to actually feeling confident enough in them. The one in the middle works. It plays. It's kind of like a Les Paul design, but then again, I'm sitting here bragging about my guitars. I don't even know if that's what you were talking about. I'll continue on the comments here. Tombstone says, any of you guys heard or interested in the new Science of Spiritual with Dan Winter, Implosion and I'm not familiar with that one. Seeing blindfolded creating heated distance with our minds. I believe that's possible, but I just am not interested in it. I can barely control my own reality. We're facing a hurricane down in New Zealand. Hopefully it won't take out our windows. Yeah, I hope not, man. Any good vintage comics or novels from 60s and 70s? Oof, that's out of my league. Jacob says, what stuck with you most in terms of advice for raising children to be decent humans? How do you be the best parent you can be on a daily basis? I got my first coming in a couple months. Jacob, that is a wonderful question. Thank you. I'm going to say, Jacob, that is probably the best question I've ever received on my channel. Man, and I mean that. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. How do I talk about parenting? Oh my God, for somebody who's got their first coming, holy shit. That is like... So there have been times in the past where I wanted to make a video talking about parenting advice. And then I realized that I'm a shitty parent. And no, I don't really feel that way. But I do. And you'll understand where I'm coming from when you have your kid. You will do everything in your fucking power for them. Like, if you're a good parent, all right, let me reread the comment here because I gotta see it's Jacob. Okay, it's Jacob. So you're a man. Okay, I need to put this in the context for a man because if it was a woman, probably wouldn't ask me for advice anyway. Let your kid be who they want to be. Let them be their own person, let them express themselves, but at the same time, help direct them to be the best person they can be. I see that what's happening today is a lot of parents are allowing the school system or the internet to raise their kids for them. And therefore, every kid thinks that they're trans. Every kid thinks that they're depressed. Every kid thinks they're anxious. This is a fact. These things are happening. Like, entire generations are being brought up to think that there's something wrong with them instead of just saying, you're having a bad day, you know? And this comes later, so I'm getting ahead of myself. When your kid is young, because you're going to only want to hear really anything that has to do with the first few years. I've raised three boys, okay? And I don't know whether yours is going to be a boy or a girl. If you have a girl, I have no advice for you because I've never raised a girl. But if you have a boy, I have a 27-year-old son, and then I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And the difference in the generations is immense. I mean, I played like, Nintendo 64 with my oldest son when he was growing up. We played like 007 and some of the early games and had a great time. Nowadays, every kid's raised by the internet. They think that what they see in YouTubers or in their favorite heroes online is the reality of how people are. So what I would say is my advice is do not limit your kid to experiencing the world through technology, but don't let your kid be ruled by technology. One of the mistakes I made for my son, who's 13 now, is letting him play too much. Now, this is difficult because he's a gamer and he's into coding. That's his thing. He joined coding club. He's tried to start his own clubs at school and shit. He loves gaming. He loves technology and he loves, you know, coding. And I thought, so he plays mine. Some people play Minecraft and just build houses. He doesn't build houses. He builds like Minecraft codes and boxes that do. I mean, there's like hundreds of this layout of circuitry that like does one specific thing for Minecraft. I don't get it. It's beyond my fucking capacity for interest because you know, I played Tetris and Red Dead Redemption, and I haven't played all the new shit. I played Minecraft with my kids. I know how it works, but the point being here, off track, is that being a parent means accepting all the new things that come towards you and all the new things that come into your life and your kid's life, and not saying back in the day. Don't say when I was a kid. Don't say back when I was young, things were different because they don't care. They never will care. Just like I didn't care when my parents told me about Elvis Presley. I was into fucking Pantera, Megadeth. I wanted to go out and skateboard. I was a skater. And, my parents were like, oh. When I was like 14, 15, right after my dad died, I tattooed hate on my knuckles, okay? My mom hated it. It has a spider web. It was taken off a guy who went to prison and tattooed. A spider web was a prison tattoo. And he had fear. I was like, hey, let's do hate. My friend and I did hate. I've got tattoos all over my legs from stupid shit. My mom would just cry. Parents see their kids doing stupid shit. And they hope that they will get over it. And I did. And I consider myself a pretty relatively decent person, I guess. I wouldn't harm a soul. So the most important thing is don't judge your kids by what they do or what they act like they're doing or what you assume they're doing because it's often more complicated. Talk to them. But like I said, you want advice for a kid, a young kid, give them lots of visual and audio toys. Play a lot of music around your kids that you like when they're young because then they will like it. It's a fact. It's just a fact. If you want your kids to like your music, you got to play it when they're young. Okay, I'm going to catch up on the comments here. Skrilla Skrill. What? Well, thanks, my friend. Another $2? That's fucking great. I appreciate you, my brother. What? $20? All right, don't do that, Victory Man. You're awesome. I don't expect anybody to donate that much, and I feel awkward even accepting it, but I appreciate you. I do. Hmm. Redstone Engineering says Mindshutter. No, not Redstone. We're talking about Minecraft. He's actually not doing Redstone. He's way beyond that. He has like these secondary apps that you can get for Minecraft. And you do these little chests that have different codes, and those codes can produce different tones, and it's beyond me right now. Jacob says, "Thanks for sharing. Great insight. P.S. Having a girl." Well, I gotta say this: all the advice that I gave for boys, I honestly don't think would be any different for a girl. The only reason I said that was because my experiences with boys. But my wife is a girl, and my wife is a metalhead. When we met, we met, she worked at a restaurant next door to my gas station. I lived, worked in Oregon and lived there, and there are no self-service gas stations in Oregon. That's changing, but in general, you have to pump gas for people. So I worked at a few different gas stations. Got pretty fucking good at putting a pump into a car, I'll tell you that. And my wife worked at Banning's, the restaurant right next door. It was like I think it was 24 hours, or maybe it just opened early. No, it was 24 hours. And it was like they specialized in like breakfast. You go in there, you order waffles or pancakes and eggs. They were on it. It was like a breakfast place 24/7. And I, naturally, being 50 feet away from my fucking work, I would go in there in the morning and order some scrambled eggs and some pancakes. And I remember my wife hit on me for like 6 months to a year, probably. I caught on. She'd even write like, I remember one time it said, "Stay dry, have a good day," with a smiley face in the inside of my styrofoam, to go container. And I showed that to my coworker. He's like, "Oh, she's hitting on you, dude." And I was like, "Yeah, probably not. She's just cool." And I was so dumb, dude. You would not believe how dumb I am with chicks, how dumb I am with people in general. I'm I'm not very good with people's. I guess the point is I focus on the things I focus on, but I'm not very good with women. I never have been, and I'm still not at almost 50 years old. And so I think that the beauty of having girls, I think that might have actually benefited me. To have a daughter at least once that would help me understand myself and my relationship with women, because it's it's awkward. Like we're all good at certain things. I'm a philosopher, but how many philosophers that are lovers or really good at like expressing themselves to women? Like I love my wife so much. Like I think about her every day, all the time. She's the light of my life. Like she is so inspiring to me that I could never express it to her personally. So here I am on a live cast talking about it, but it's true. She's always there for other people. She's always first one to jump out of bed, get the kids sandwiches ready for school. And I lay there and I'm like, I gotta get up, I gotta get up. And I'm like, how does she do it? Because she's put herself in that position and she's good at it. And women tend to do that. And there's something that's maybe controversial today about talking about that. The fact that we do have gender roles because my wife would never scream at me to make a sandwich, just the way I would never scream at her to go get the raccoon out of the pond when my dog is chewing it up and it's bleeding all over. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing, but it doesn't mean that we can't learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. Is that too edgy? Oh shit! Life is funny. I'm going back through the comments real quick here. Jacob says, we maybe all be human, but male and females are so different. Those differences need to be cherished. I totally agree with you, my friend. Adam says, random, what are egg prices like near you, and what do you think about the current egg inflation? Have you ever considered backyard chickens? Ah, that's a good question. I have. And the truth is, my neighbors, at least two or three of them, have backyard chickens, and I decided it wasn't worth it to me. I know the cost of feed for chickens. If you're not raising chickens in a industrial setting, then the cost you pay for chicken feed and time and effort is more than you would pay for eggs here. I went in and looked the other day, and eggs here were still like $2.49 a dozen, $2 to $2.49. But the truth is, what do I believe they should be worth? I think every egg should be 50 cents. Therefore, I think that a dozen eggs at $6 is a damn fair price. The problem is, I feel like a lot of the money should go to the farmers and not to the corporations. And that's just how I feel. I think that if you understood, if any of us understood egg subsidies, dairy subsidies, meat subsidies, and how you cannot buy a burger for 99 cents. These costs are subsidized and passed on to the consumer. But put it this way, you are paying money for people who go to McDonald's. That's a fact. You are paying subsidized, for subsidized meat that goes to people who eat at McDonald's. And that's gross as fuck, but another topic altogether. But yeah, eggs are pretty cheap here. That's my only thing about eggs. I feel like people are saying that they've been going up a lot, and I would guess that's in bigger cities. And if you live in a bigger city, I would highly recommend you get the fuck out. I live in the suburbs of Vancouver, in East Vancouver, Washington, not BC, Canada, but Vancouver, Washington. A lot of people don't know this. So we've got Portland, then we've got Seattle way up here. Portland is right next to the Columbia River, which is a large river. And then right over the Columbia River from Portland is Vancouver. And Vancouver, Washington is a unique place. It's had bad crime, it's had decent crime rates, then back to bad crime rates. And, but it's far enough away from Portland to where it's harder to get your catalytic converter stolen. I mean, the fact is, there are cars everywhere in Portland, and anybody can walk up. I have a Sawzall that, with a metal blade, it takes me literally 15 seconds to cut through a pipe at work, a tube, a metal tube, something, whatever I'm doing. If I were to walk up with the Sawzall this long and slide under your car and just go brrr, brrr, and cut off both sides of your catalytic converter, I just cost you $2,000, and it took me 30 seconds. I'm not kidding. It is so simple. Most people don't realize how unprotected your shit really is. You can put a plate over it, you can paint it, none of that matters. People will get what they want. They'll find a way to get it. You're not smart on a thief. So, I think we need to deal with this problem, of course. You could electrify your muffler. That's not going to work, of course. But Portland has a huge crime problem, and Vancouver isn't that much better. And I want the fuck out, put it that way. Sandra says, They're higher here, but I get organic. No, organic eggs are always more, and it's funny you say that because this morning I went down to my local Fred Meyer, which is Kroger for the West Coast, and if you go into the store in the early morning, that's when they mark shit down. Smart people go and get it when it's marked down cheap. So I'll go in there to get like my sandwich for the day. It's like marked down to half price because it expires in a day. I don't care. It's probably good for 3 or 4 more days, right? Expiration days doesn't matter. So I walked into Fred Meyer today this morning to get my morning um, drinks and beer and food and everything for work. And I walked around the organic milk section, and they have the local Northwest organic milk for 6.79, or like it was like $7 a gallon, and it was on sale for 99 cents because it expired tomorrow. And knowing what I know about expiration dates, I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm gonna take it." You know, 2 gallons for $2. That saved me $12 on 2 gallons of organic milk, and it'll probably be good for a week. It's just you don't ever know what the expiration date really is. Smell it, smell test, man. Adam's talking about real eggs. He's like, yeah, they're some of the best eggs. Yeah, organic egg. Mine. We have a lot of chicken farms and shit around here. I should probably go buy local organic eggs. I haven't done that in a while. I'd probably be happier. Thanks for reminding me. We've been buying them at Costco, and they're not bad, but you know. Ryan says if you eat fast food these days, you might want to reevaluate your life. Um, I eat fast food. Gotta say, it's not that simple. In all respect, I I went today to Wendy's and bought myself a double cheeseburger with fries and a Pepsi. And I gotta say, my boss and I were joking around. He went to get a fish sandwich, and we were saying you gotta reward yourself sometimes, but not all fast food is bad. And all I would say is my wife made a joke. She's like, she looked at my burger and she's like, there's no vegetables on that because it was just a couple patties and cheese and buns. And I was like, well, what would I be better off eating? Just meat and cheese or a whole burger full of lettuce and pickles, onions, and tomatoes? I'd be much healthier eating the burger. The fact is that meat has the protein my body requires, and understanding how the body processes nutrients kind of changes how I ate, or changed how I ate. Like when you eat protein, you eat meat. Your body doesn't just take those proteins and use them. Your body takes those proteins and breaks them down into separate amino acids and then reconstitutes those amino acids into proteins your body does need. Proteins. And therefore, the reason why this was so important to me is every time I eat beef, I feel great. And I thought, this just doesn't feel right. I shouldn't want to eat beef. But I love beef. Why does beef make me feel so good? I'm a meat eater, but I'm also a vegetarian. So I'm an omnivore, right? And I don't have the same canine teeth I used to have because I have crowns now, but I used to have these huge canines. And I'd always make jokes about how I'm a meat eater, flesh ripper, and how I'm an opportunist. I'll eat anything that comes away. I don't care what it is. But I don't like certain vegetables. It's usually if I like the flavor. And meat is always a flavor I like. I will never be a vegetarian. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. I know people say don't say it, never, but I like meat. So that's not going away. I will always eat meat. I'm going to grab something real quick out of here. It's called a brouhaha. Clink, 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 clink. How long have I been on here? Long enough to spill my beer. Actually, it was just a release failure. Let's clean up this mess before it becomes toxic. Okay, here we go. Meat is a stimulant? What are you talking about, Ryan? Meat is not a stimulant. Jacob says America is addicted to carbohydrates. They recommended for us keto, high protein, high healthy fats. It's really healthy diet. I don't like keto. I think it's bullshit. My opinion, though. My son went on keto diet, and it's horrible because it puts you in ketosis, which is great for a short time, but eventually you need what you need. Veggie burgers are just as good, if not better, says Lord Nicken. I disagree. I like meat. Okay, they might taste just as good. But the truth is, why would a veggie burger attempt to taste like a meat burger? You know what I mean? Because they know people like meat. So they're trying to find something that's similar to what people naturally, instinctually want, which is fucking meat. I mean, I can't not eat meat. I like meat. You know, it's actually the most efficient diet. And the truth is, eating meat is not bad for the environment either. It's actually good for the environment. And not if you're eating farm factory beef, of course. That's not my point. But hoofed creatures have dug up, the landscape for millions of years. And we just need to get back to kind of a raw way of living. I don't think people are against meat. I think people are just against the way that animals are treated. That's all. Steve says veggie burgers don't stand a chance. Love them, but not a chance. True, true to that. Yeah, doesn't work. Veggie burgers loaded with soy, all bad. Yeah, I'm not into that. I like meat, man. I mean, I don't care. I'm not gonna be shy about it or pretend like I don't like it. I'm a meat eater, and generally I remove all the vegetables from my hamburgers. I don't put any vegetables on my hot dogs. If I rarely eat a hot dog, I'll try to eat kosher. Um, I don't like any vegetables on my chicken. I don't eat cilantro. Oh my god, my boss and I had this discussion today about cilantro, and I said I'm one of the guys who it tastes like soap. I said people's brains are different. Cilantro is bullshit. Don't ever put it on my food, or I'll kick your ass. I was like, I'm not ever touching cilantro again. And if it ends up in my garden, it will be destroyed. Um, and people just like, oh, get over it. Like they don't understand, and that people, you know, see things differently, taste things differently, and that's why I was fascinated with it. I did a bunch of research on how people perceive taste and how different we are about that. It's pretty amazing, really. That light's getting brighter. Hot dogs, though, Jacob says. Yep, hot dogs too. Hey, dude, it's all a bunch of shit ground up together. Honestly, don't care. I just like, yeah, factory farms are a big issue. I agree with Lord there. But yeah, meat is not the problem. My boss and I were talking today about hunting. I was saying how I've never been hunting, but I've wanted to. The thing is, I eat fish. I like fishing. And I was saying how in Drift Creek, by Oregon, delicious, delicious fish. Cutthroat trout from the coast, they come in and they're just reddest meat, most delicious. So you cast your pole, you hook a fish, you reel the fish in, and then you cut him open and you throw his guts all over the place. Of course not, you bury him or throw him in the fire pit, whatever. But you cook up that fish flesh on the fire and you eat it. That is one of the most rewarding things to catch and eat your own fish while you're camping. And anyone who enjoys that experience is not a vegetarian. Like you can't say I only eat fish or I only eat fish and chicken. My wife, for example, she'll eat fish, she'll eat chicken, she'll eat turkey, but she does not eat beef or swine, which I respect because at least she eats some meat. I think that's good. But swine is not the best meat. I don't like pig. I think pigs are raised horribly, and I think that the way that they are treated is horrendous. But also, it's just too fatty. But I like chicken. I really like chicken. Can't help it. No, Limity says, you eating soon? Actually, I am going to eat. I'm going to eat right now because Mr. Fiddle says it's amazing eating what you catch. You are correct. That's one of the awesomest things. Being able to go out and catch something yourself. People think that fishing is easy. You just throw out a worm and you're good to go, man. You got everything you know. Uh, yeah, it doesn't work that way. You can't just throw out a worm on a hook and expect to get a fish, but that will work. But I definitely love catching something and eating it and putting out the effort. I've never been hunting though. Maybe another time. You know, Kratom, who took it up? It should be illegal. Yeah. Oh, my buddy Kevin sent me a message just now. It said, apparently there's some new TikTok video going on. People are cooking chicken in NyQuil and getting sick. Oh my God, dude. That's so old. He's so far behind. Kevin, you gotta keep up with the times, bro. That's like months ago. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Good to see you all, and I'll talk to you next time. Much love. We'll do this again Sunday. Be here. Peace.